They say you should never mix business with family, but watching my mother's empire crumble while she finally realized who truly held the power was worth every sleepless night I spent orchestrating her downfall. The crystal chandeliers in the grand ballroom of the St. Regis Hotel cast perfect light on the annual Morrison and Associates partner dinner, making everyone look successful and polished. I sat at the far end of table 12, the reject table, where they put the assistants and plus ones who didn't quite belong. My mother, Victoria Morrison, stood at the podium, her platinum blonde hair swept into a perfect chignon, her black Valentino suit worth more than most people's cars. This year, Morrison and Associates crossed the $3 billion revenue mark, she announced to thunderous applause from the 200 lawyers filling the room. We've acquired offices in London, Tokyo, and Singapore. We've represented 7 Fortune 100 companies in landmark cases. We are, without question, the most powerful law firm in Chicago. Her eyes found me across the room, and her smile tightened just enough that only I would notice. Success, however, requires certain qualities: intelligence, ambition. The killer instinct that separates winners from those who merely participate. She paused, letting her gaze linger on me. Not everyone possesses these qualities, despite their educational pedigree. My own daughter, Andrea, graduated from Yale Law with honors, yet somehow couldn't pass the bar exam. 3 attempts, 3 failures. She now works in legal technology, playing with computers while real lawyers shape the world. The room filled with uncomfortable laughter. Some people glanced at me with pity, others with secondhand embarrassment. Richard Thorne, my mother's longest-serving partner, actually shook his head sadly. Margaret Chen, who ran the firm's Asia-Pacific division, whispered something to her table that made them all turn to stare at me. I took a sip of water, my hand perfectly steady, and glanced at my phone. The notification on the screen made me smile. Transfer complete. Ownership documents filed. Awaiting your signal. My mother continued her speech, outlining the firm's expansion plans, the new clients they were pursuing, the legacy she was building. She spoke about succession planning, about grooming the next generation of leaders, pointedly noting that leadership couldn't be inherited, only earned. Some people, she said, her voice carrying perfectly through the room's acoustics, believe that family connections entitle them to positions they haven't earned. But at Morrison and Associates, we believe in meritocracy. Excellence cannot be faked, and mediocrity cannot be hidden, no matter whose DNA you carry. Arthur Morrison, my father, shifted uncomfortably in his seat at the head table. He'd been trying to catch my mother's eye, to signal her to stop, but she was on a roll. She loved these moments, these public displays of dominance where she could remind everyone, especially me, of the hierarchy. Margaret Chen stood up, raising her champagne glass. To Victoria Morrison, who built this empire from nothing and shows us every day what real power looks like. Everyone stood and raised their glasses. Everyone except me. I remained seated, typing on my phone. Several people noticed and whispered. My mother's jaw tightened. After the toast, she returned to the podium. Before we continue with dinner, I should address the elephant in the room. Or should I say, the failed lawyer in the room. More uncomfortable laughter. Andrea, since you're here, would you like to share your latest startup idea with everyone? What is it this time? Blockchain for contracts? AI for case law? Another attempt to disrupt an industry you couldn't succeed in? I stood up slowly, smoothing my simple black dress. It was off the rack from Nordstrom, deliberately chosen to contrast with the designer gowns around me. Actually, Mother, I do have an announcement about global legal technologies. She rolled her eyes theatrically. Everyone, prepare yourselves for another pitch about how technology will replace real lawyers. Go ahead, Andrea. 5 minutes, then we need to get back to serious business. I walked to the front of the room, my heels clicking on the marble floor. The crowd parted, some people literally stepping back as if failure might be contagious. When I reached the podium, my mother stepped aside with exaggerated courtesy, her smile sharp as glass. Thank you for the opportunity, I said into the microphone. My voice was calm, steady. Global Legal Technologies has indeed had an interesting quarter. We've completed several acquisitions that I think this room will find particularly relevant. My mother laughed. Unless you've acquired the ability to pass the bar exam, I doubt anyone here cares about your little tech purchases. Actually, I continued, pulling out my tablet, we've acquired something more interesting. As of 4:47 p.m. today, Global Legal Technologies owns controlling interest in Morrison and Associates. The laughter stopped. The room went so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming. My mother's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Amusement, confusion, disbelief, then the beginning of rage. That's impossible, she said, grabbing the microphone from me. This is a privately held partnership. Our shares aren't for sale. They are when the partnership agreement allows for corporate restructuring through technology sector acquisitions, I replied, my voice carrying even without the microphone. Page 247 of the amended partnership agreement, the one you all signed last month without reading because it was just routine updating for the Asian expansion. Richard Thorne was on his feet, his face red. That's fraud. That's illegal. That's business, I corrected him. Every document was reviewed by external counsel. Every signature was obtained legally. Every transfer was processed through proper channels. You taught me well, Mother. Document everything, leave no loose ends, and always read the fine print. My mother's assistant ran into the room, her face white with panic. She handed my mother a phone. Whatever my mother read on that screen made her sway on her feet. Arthur jumped up to steady her. The Shanghai acquisition, my mother whispered. The Tokyo merger, the Singapore expansion, they were all shells. They were all you. Global Legal Technologies subsidiaries, to be precise, I confirmed. $12 billion in documented transactions over the past 18 months, all of which transferred ownership of international assets to the parent company, which transferred voting rights to the technology division, which is wholly owned by me. Margaret Chen was frantically scrolling through documents on her phone. The retention bonuses we negotiated, the golden parachutes, they're all void? Only for traditional corporate takeovers, I explained. Technology sector acquisitions were specifically excluded. Like Mother said, you should read what you sign. The room erupted in chaos. Partners were shouting, associates were panicking, everyone was on their phones calling their personal lawyers. My mother stood at the podium, gripping it like she might fall over without its support. You failed the bar exam, she said weakly. 3 times. No, I said simply. I passed on the first try. I just told you I failed. And you believed it because it fit your narrative of me being a disappointment. You never even asked to see the results. The truth of it hit her like a physical blow. She actually staggered. But why? Because you needed to believe I was beneath you. It made you careless. You let me handle all the technology infrastructure, all the digital systems, all the boring computer stuff that real lawyers couldn't be bothered with. You gave me access to everything while believing I was too stupid to use it. My phone buzzed. Another notification. Oh, that's the SEC confirming receipt of the ownership change documents. And this one is the Illinois State Bar Association acknowledging the change in managing partner. Effective immediately, that would be me. Victoria found her voice again, and it was venomous. You little bitch. I gave you everything. The best schools, the best opportunities, everything you could want. Everything except respect, I replied. Everything except basic human dignity. You gave me material things while taking every opportunity to humiliate me, to diminish me, to remind me that I would never be good enough. Arthur tried to intervene. Andrea, sweetheart, let's discuss this privately. We're family. Family? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Family doesn't stand at podiums and publicly mock their children. Family doesn't use every achievement as an opportunity to highlight failures. Family doesn't spend 20 years making someone feel worthless while taking credit for their successes. I turned back to the room. For those wondering about your jobs, I'll be conducting performance reviews over the next month. Those who perform actual legal work have nothing to worry about. Those who spent their time playing politics and kissing the ring of the former managing partner might want to update their resumes. Margaret Chen stepped forward. You can't run a law firm without practicing attorneys. You don't even have a license to practice. I smiled and pulled out a document. Actually, I've been licensed in Illinois, New York, California, and DC for the past 5 years. I've been practicing under the name A. Morrison through digital filings. I've won 37 cases, all of them pro bono work for clients your firm rejected as not profitable enough. My mother sank into a chair someone had pushed behind her. The pro bono wins we've been taking credit for. That was you? Every single one. You never questioned where they came from because they made the firm look good. Community service, social responsibility, all those buzzwords you use in marketing materials but never actually cared about. Richard Thorne was still trying to fight. The clients won't stand for this. They have relationships with us, not with you. I called 12 of our biggest clients this afternoon, I said. After explaining the technological improvements and cost reductions I'm implementing, they're all eager to see what the new Morrison and Associates can do. Turns out they're tired of being billed $2,000 an hour for work that junior associates do anyway. My mother stood up, her legs shaky but her voice firm. You won't get away with this. I'll sue. I'll destroy you. With what money? I asked. Your personal assets are tied to the firm. Your firm equity is now worthless. Your expense accounts have been frozen. Even your corporate credit cards were canceled as of 5 o'clock. She pulled out her phone, presumably to check her accounts. Her face went white as she saw the reality of her situation. The house in Lake Forest, she whispered. The apartment in Manhattan. The house in Aspen. All held by the firm as corporate assets. I confirmed, which now belong to Global Legal Technologies. I'm willing to offer you a rental agreement for the Lake Forest house. Market rate, of course. The room was spiraling into complete chaos now. Partners were screaming at each other, blaming each other for not catching this, for not reading the documents, for trusting Victoria's judgment. Several people were heading for the exits. Probably to start calling recruiters. I raised my voice above the din. Anyone who leaves tonight forfeits their accrued bonuses and partnership distributions. Anyone who stays and works with the new management will receive their full compensation. The choice is yours. That stopped the exodus. Most people stood frozen, calculating their options. The financial reality was setting in. They were trapped. Margaret Chen approached me, her expression calculating. What do you want from us? From you? Competent legal work, professional behavior, actual value for our clients? I turned to look at my mother. From her? Nothing. She's fired, effective immediately. My mother laughed, but it was hollow, desperate. You can't fire me. My name is on the door. Actually, check the official registration. It's Morrison and Associates, not Victoria Morrison and Associates. And I'm a Morrison too. She stood there, this woman who had built an empire, who had commanded rooms and intimidated judges, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my concern, I said. You've spent 20 years telling me to figure things out on my own. Consider this your opportunity to take your own advice. My father finally spoke up, his voice shaking. Andrea, she's your mother. No, I said firmly. She's a woman who gave birth to me. A mother would have protected me, encouraged me, celebrated my successes instead of being threatened by them. A mother would have seen my worth instead of spending every opportunity to diminish it. I turned back to the room. Dinner is over. Senior partners, I'll see you in the conference room at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Junior partners, meetings begin at 10. Associates, take the morning off. You've been working 18-hour days for too long. A young associate in the back actually started clapping. Then another joined. Soon, most of the associates and junior partners were applauding. They'd all suffered under my mother's tyrannical management style, her impossible demands, her cruel performance reviews. They saw me as liberation. My mother watched her empire crumble, her loyalists abandon her, her power evaporate. This isn't over, she said to me quietly. I'll find a way to undo this. You're welcome to try, I said. But while you're plotting, remember that I had 3 years to plan this. 3 years to place every piece, to close every loophole, to ensure that once the trap was sprung, there would be no escape. I pulled up another document on my tablet. Oh, and your personal legal team at Stevenson, Cole & Partners? Global Legal Technologies acquired them last week. So good luck finding representation. The next morning, I sat in what had been my mother's office, a massive corner suite on the 50th floor of the Willis Tower. The view of Chicago's skyline was spectacular, but I wasn't here for the view. I was here for the reckoning. My assistant knocked and entered. Miss Morrison, your parents are here. They've been waiting in the lobby since 6 a.m. Send them up, I said. They entered looking haggard. My mother had aged years overnight, her perfect composure shattered. My father looked defeated, smaller somehow. They sat across from my desk, in the chairs where desperate clients used to beg for my mother's help. I've been thinking all night, my mother began, trying to understand why. You really don't know? I asked. You can't think of a single reason why I might have done this? She was quiet for a moment. The partner dinners, the comments about the bar exam. Try harder, I said. Think back further. Your first day at the firm, she said slowly. When you asked to shadow me, to learn from me, I assigned you to IT instead. Because you said I wasn't smart enough to understand real legal work, in front of the entire senior partnership. The summer you interned here during law school, I gave you the worst assignments. And then fired me after 2 weeks, saying I was an embarrassment to the Morrison name. Your law school graduation, I didn't attend. You were playing golf with clients. You said it was more important than watching me get a degree I'd never used properly. Each memory seemed to physically pain her. My father listened in horror, apparently hearing most of this for the first time. I was trying to motivate you, she said weakly, to push you to be better. No, I said. You were threatened by me, because I was young and smart and had ideas that didn't fit your worldview. You needed me to fail to validate your belief that you were special, that your success was due to your superiority rather than timing and luck. So you destroyed everything I built out of spite? I didn't destroy it. I took it. There's a difference. The firm will continue, probably more successfully than before. Your legacy will remain. It just won't be yours anymore. What do you want from us? My father asked. There must be something, or you wouldn't have agreed to see us. I pulled out 2 documents, resignation letters. Sign them and you'll receive a modest severance package, enough to maintain a middle-class lifestyle if you're careful. Refuse, and you'll be terminated for cause, with nothing. My mother stared at the papers. Severance from my own firm. My firm, I corrected, has been for months, you just didn't know it. She signed. They both did. What choice did they have? As they stood to leave, my mother turned back. Was any of it real? The failed bar exams, the struggling startups, the need for our support? The startups were real. They were just more successful than I let you believe. The blockchain company you mocked? It's processing legal documents for the European Union. The AI you dismissed? It's handling case research for the Department of Justice. Every failure you celebrated was actually a success you were too arrogant to recognize. She left without another word. My father lingered for a moment. I should have protected you from her, he said quietly. I saw what she was doing, and I said nothing. I'm sorry. Your apology is noted, I said. But it doesn't change anything. After they left, I stood at the window, looking out at the city below. 20 years of pain, of humiliation, of being told I wasn't good enough, all leading to this moment. I'd won. I'd taken everything from the woman who tried to break me. But victory felt different than I'd imagined. It wasn't the euphoric triumph I'd expected. It was quiet, almost anticlimactic. The empire was mine, but it came with the weight of 200 employees depending on me, clients expecting excellence, and a reputation to maintain. My phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. I almost deleted it, but curiosity made me open it. I know you won't believe this, but I'm proud of you. You played the game better than I ever could. The student has surpassed the master. Maybe that's what I was really afraid of all along. VM. I stared at my mother's initials for a long moment, then deleted the message. I had work to do. Real work, not the power games and psychological warfare my mother had specialized in. I had a firm to run, clients to serve, and a culture to change. The first all-hands meeting was that afternoon. I stood at the same podium where my mother had humiliated me countless times, looking out at 200 nervous faces. Things are going to change, I began. The billable hour requirements are being reduced. The pro bono commitment is being doubled. The toxic culture of competition and backstabbing ends now. We're going to practice law, not politics. The relief in the room was palpable. These people had been suffering under my mother's regime for years, afraid to speak up, afraid to leave, trapped in golden handcuffs. Those of you who thrived under the old system, who enjoyed the cruelty and politics, should leave now. There's no place for you here. Those of you who want to do meaningful legal work in a supportive environment, welcome to the new Morrison & Associates. The applause was genuine this time. Not the commanded performance my mother had always received, but real appreciation for real change. Over the next 6 months, the firm transformed. We lost about 30% of the senior partners, the ones who couldn't adapt to a culture that valued collaboration over competition. But we gained talented young lawyers who'd been driven away by my mother's toxicity. Our revenues actually increased, as clients appreciated the new approach and the technology innovations I implemented. My mother never contacted me again after that text message. I heard through others that she'd moved to Florida, where she was teaching at a small law school. My father divorced her and moved to Arizona to be closer to his sister. The empire she'd built continued without her, stronger in many ways than it had ever been under her leadership. A year after the takeover, I was preparing for another partner dinner at the same street. Regis Ballroom. My assistant knocked and entered with a package. This was delivered for you, she said. No return address. Inside was a small crystal paperweight in the shape of a gavel. Attached was a note in my mother's handwriting. For the real lawyer in the family. I held it up to the light, watching it refract into rainbows. It was the first time she'd ever acknowledged my success without qualifying it, without diminishing it, without making it about her. It only took losing everything for her to see me as I really was. I placed the paperweight on my desk where I could see it every day, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. A reminder of what happens when you underestimate someone because they don't fit your narrow definition of success. A reminder that true power doesn't come from titles or corner offices, but from patience, planning, and the willingness to play a longer game than anyone expects. The partner dinner that night was different from any before it. There were no humiliating speeches, no public shamings, no power plays. Just colleagues celebrating genuine accomplishments and supporting each other's growth. Several people commented on how different the atmosphere was, how much healthier it felt. As I stood to give my speech, I thought about my mother standing at this same podium a year ago, using it as a weapon to hurt and humiliate. I'd taken her weapon and turned it into something else entirely, a platform for building others up instead of tearing them down. Success, I began, isn't about being better than everyone else. It's about being better than you were yesterday. It's about lifting others as you climb. And it's about remembering that the person you dismissed today might be the one holding your future tomorrow. I caught sight of my reflection in the ballroom's mirrors. I was wearing a simple black suit. Nothing designer, nothing flashy. I looked like what I was, a lawyer who happened to run a law firm, not a tyrant who happened to practice law. The speech was short, focused on the firm's achievements and future plans, without a single mention of my personal life or anyone else's failures. When I finished, the applause was warm and genuine. People were smiling, relaxed, actually enjoying themselves. Later that evening, as the party wound down, Margaret Chen approached me. She'd been one of the few senior partners who'd stayed and adapted to the new culture. You know, she said quietly, your mother was brilliant in many ways, but her biggest mistake was not seeing that you inherited all her intelligence and ambition. just without the cruelty. Maybe, I replied. Or maybe her biggest mistake was teaching me exactly how power works while believing I'd never be able to use those lessons. Margaret smiled. Either way, the firm is better for it. We all are. As I left the hotel that night, I thought about the long journey that had brought me here. The years of planning, the careful moves, the patient waiting for the perfect moment to strike. It had all paid off, but not in the way I'd originally imagined. I'd thought I wanted revenge, but what I'd actually wanted was recognition. I'd thought I wanted to destroy my mother, but what I'd actually done was free myself from needing her approval. The Chicago night was cold and clear, the city lights sparkling like diamonds against the dark sky. I had a firm to run, a legacy to reshape, and a future to build. The past, with all its pain and humiliation, was finally just that, the past. My phone buzzed with an email from a potential client, a tech startup that needed legal representation. They'd heard about our innovative approach and wanted to meet. I smiled and replied that I'd be happy to discuss their needs. This was the future, using law to build rather than destroy, to create rather than control. As I drove home to my modest apartment in Lincoln Park, so different from my mother's mansion in Lake Forest, I realized that the greatest revenge wasn't taking everything from her. It was proving that success didn't require sacrificing your humanity. It was showing that power could be wielded with grace rather than cruelty. It was demonstrating that the person she'd dismissed as a failure was actually everything she'd claimed to be, and more. The war was over. I'd won. But more importantly, I'd survived with my soul intact, something my mother had lost long before she lost her empire. And that, more than any hostile takeover or corporate maneuvering, was the real victory.